Hello, welcome or welcome back if you've been here before. This little video is about Bob and mainly about the goalpost and the restoration of the goalpost and the alignment of the goalpost, which you might have seen already. But really just getting this thing sorted out once and for all. If you like it, if you don't, you want to contact me, churchhouseclassics, it's all one word, @gmail.com. And if you fancy supporting the channel, buy me a pint. Just hitting the tip jar. There's a PayPal me link thing scrolling down here, and all donations are gratefully received. Really, yeah. Hats off to you, chaps. Enjoy the video. Put my hat back on again now. It's upside down. There's a lot of noise in the background, but kind of we're getting towards the end of this now. So what I'm going to do next is just double check that it fits, that the tailgates fit. And then I can tidy up these welds and get it prepped and ready for paint. I still need to finish off the top corners and also put the notch in. I'm going to turn this off now because the noise is absolutely horrendous. I don't think I can make this much noise, but there you go. Okay, goalpost is on. Tailgates now fit within the goalpost, which is good. They both fit beautifully. However, the goalpost is now too high, so I know it's nothing to do with the top rail or the bottom rail because the tailgates fit between. So I'm being bitten again by this big fat chunky washer down here. So I'm going to have to cut it off and lower the tailgate by X amount. And that's going to bring in another problem because if I lower the rear cross member, I'm going to need to lower the fuel tank as well. And this is because the tail end of the chassis that's on this car, literally just these two bits at the back here, as you saw on earlier videos. The tail bit of the chassis came from a petrol tank that was made out of plastic, not steel, and they got different rear crossmembers. But I didn't realise I learned something new there. What I'll do is I'll trial it before I go berserk by just taking the rubber out, because it's more or less the thickness of the rubber. So if I take the rubber out and practice with washers and see if I can get this down to the level I want it at. At the moment, you can see, I've got a fair discrepancy here. This is where it should be. That's too high. So I need to just lower the whole goalpost down until that meets that, and the holes all line up. And as you can see, there's stress on this top rail here because the top rail's too high. Grab a quick 10 seconds while I can hear myself thinking here. Right, so I've taken the lower rubber out from below the mounting. It won't stay like that, don't panic. Just wants to lower the cross member down to the chassis. Now, the gap I've got down here, it's pretty much the same distance from the main chassis rail on each side. The cross member thing here though is, I don't know whether it's not level or not, but the chassis rail and that cross member are all attached as one big chunk. And I know that the two mountings are absolutely level, so I don't quite know why. Probably just because that is but that's welded flush there, and that's welded not flush there, so it's just whoever made the chassis fucked that up. But the main chassis rails are level, and they're the same distance from the cross member. Now, on this side, it's dropped down much lower, kind of where I want it, and it's looking less strained. On the other side, I haven't really done anything at all, I'll be honest. That's not attached to anything, don't worry. But it doesn't want to come down any further. In fact, you can even see that the floor is floating now. Something's happened. I think because I've probably stretched it too far. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the two mountings off on the trailing edge of the sill and see if I can get the body back into the shape it should be in. Really don't want to have to start stripping side frames and stuff out. The fact that this side is now okay and the goal post is, all at right angles, I'm happy with. I just think that something's happened on this side. Maybe something hasn't happened. Maybe it's always been like it. And I have lowered the cross member, so the cross member is now free of the body bolts there. In fact, I might take it out, but you can see that the cross member mounting is loose there. Loosey. Right, so let's get those mountings out. 9/16 bolts. See if we can get this thing a little bit better. Since I've done that, by the way, that is no longer stressed. up there, the top of the B post. Right, I fear they're about to make a shitload of noise again, so I'm going to stop recording. I shall catch up with you a bit later on when I've got a bit closer to where I want to be. Okay, half an hour of head scratching. I'm pretty much there now. I've got that down to where I want it. Don't worry about this gap yet, I'll tell you what that's about. This side, perfect. And that will go onto there when that comes out to it. So that's going to meet up. So I put the roof on because I thought, well, I've got too many variables involved in this. I've replaced side curtains, side floor, side arch, sills, body mounts, roof rail. And the only thing I know is correct right now is the goalpost. I know that the actual goalpost structure is correct because it accommodates both tailgates, and I'm happy with that. So I've got the issue with the bottom mounts down here. I've got my original screw back in there, so that goes right to the back, butts up against the inside of the goalpost. Don't worry about the gap there, that'll be fixed. And then that's my screw, okay? So I know that the goalpost is central in the hole by working with this area here. This, however, the floor is too far forwards. So, trying to work out what it is, and I think it's basically because this piece here, which is actually welded onto the roof up here, is too tight against the top of the goalpost, which is why I refitted the roof. So I wanted to make sure, because the roof is another constant, something that's not changed. So if the roof fits on 4 of the corners, and the screws go in, which they do, then this here just has to go that way. There's nothing I can do about it. At the moment, I've got no mounts on the back here, and I've got no mounts at the ends of the sills. But if you look, you'll see these sill extensions that I'm welded on there. They've got the fat washers on them as well. Fuck's sake. See, I've learned something new. Thanks to whoever it was, I don't know who it was now, comment down here, who pointed it out about the variances in the thickness of the washers welded to the chassis. But the early cars had washers that were a fraction of that. I suspect that they raised the whole body up off the chassis in order to accommodate things like fuel lines on top of the chassis rails and so forth. Well, I don't need that. So I'm going to have to lower it down. I'm going to have to work on what I'm going to do with the fuel tank. It will probably involve me cutting out the bracket down here and putting another bracket in that's lower in order to mount the fuel tank. That's not an issue because this whole thing is going to come apart very, very, very soon. All I really wanted to do next was bolt this up. That now I'm happy with. Bolt it up, attach the rear wings, make sure the rear wings align, and that is going to work. And then I can start pulling this body frame apart, actually finishing off the welds on it. Because I'm reasonably confident now that with the goalpost in place, and this has been a lot of sitting around thinking, and not a lot of actual work, which means that it's not billable. Yeah, because I was thinking, well, have I welded this on too low? Well, no, I haven't, because it sits on top of the cross member like it always has done. So then on my dad's car, I measured from this point here straight down, and I measured from this point here straight down. Now I'm going to be a few mil out here because I haven't got this bracket at this end. This window aperture is within 1 millimetre, the same as dad's, and so is this one. So I think everything is okay. I just think that that is kind of putting me off a little bit, as is this. I did have a problem with the mountings. That will be resolved now. But now the goalpost is the correct height. And I think that that was a big cock up, that was really. Again, non-billable time. Shit happens. Measure 55,000 times, cut once. You can see how far forwards this section is. Centimetre? More or less a centimetre. So by the time this comes back, it's all going to line up. And I'm going to refit the outer panels again and just double check. You see, I'm taking the door off because I was just messing around with sills and mountings and desperately just trying to get this thing so it was in a good place. Don't worry about that gap there, because that got bent. So that's just going to straighten up and weld onto there. And that is still straight. In fact, I've got the heel board over there, so I'll refit that as part of my checks. Right. I think we can move forwards an inch. I'm going to need to get someone to come and give me a hand getting this roof off there. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention was I was trying to use these holes here. Ignore this pigeon snot here. That's the old welder. New welder. It's beautiful. I love it. I was trying to reuse these holes here, but then I thought, well, where did I get those holes from? Because that part of the car never existed. It had been completely destroyed by Mr. Bobtail. I knew that these were good, so those holes there are a constant against the upper half of the goalpost, which is why I know now that the roof is the right height, this is the right height, that's the right height. And I know the goalpost, the worst case scenario is it needs to come down a little bit. So at the moment I am probably just slightly less than so I can still lift the goalpost up a little bit. So the goalpost probably wants to come up a millimetre or two. It's actually floating at the moment, it's not actually sitting on anything at all. Probably because the rest of the car, in fact it might even be resting, it is resting on here, it's resting on the chassis. So what I could do is actually just stick a piece of steel between the cross member and the chassis to raise it to where I want it to be, so that when the washer and the mount go in, it has the correct level. Now if we go to the front of the car, to an original mounting, to the noisy end of the workshop, and down here you can see there's the kind of the thinner, much thinner washer. Okay, we've got a bit of paint on the body mounting, but it's a much thinner washer. So I'm going to take that mount off, just double check what the thickness of that is. I've got two here as well, but they're not quite so accessible, and cut the others down to that height. I am pleased with the bottom ends of the goalposts though. I mean, bearing in mind none of this existed. But from there down have been chopped out. So I've had to remake all of these bits. Not finished yet, folks, not finished. Love my new welder though. Have I said? I don't think I've said. Fucking love it. Should have bought one years ago. I reckon that Stevie Wonder could weld with this welder. It's beautiful. I'll do a review on it. It's 200 amps. I'm not even halfway up on the scale yet. It's lovely. I just love it. Lunatic. This has been a ridiculously long week trying to get all this sorted, but we're there. We are finally there. Many of the hours of work will not be billed because it's me taking things apart and remeasuring, finding different ways to measure how the alignment of this back end is supposed together. Now it's bang on, absolutely bang on. The only thing I need to do is I've mounted this wing corner here on its original screw hole. It needs to go down about a millimetre or two because the top tailgate, bottom tailgate fit beautifully. Top tailgate opens on its hinges. That's going to go down a couple of mil, not a lot. This gap down here, once it's got the bracket on there, I don't know if you can see that, it's going to go in there. Similarly, I'm going to do that again with the light. I am working on better lighting for this workshop, believe me. Right, okay, that goes in fucking thing. I'm going to hold the torch in my mouth. That one's good. That one is too. Okay. The gap between top and bottom tailgate, perfect. The gap either side of top tailgate, perfect. Again, that piece is there. It's just the outer trim is just bent slightly. Don't worry about the daylight. You can see through the top up there. That bit of daylight there. I've not finished welding yet on the top, on the bulkhead. Sorry, goalpost. Everything now lines up beautifully. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take the whole fucking thing apart again. So I'll start with the goalpost and I will finish all of the welds and get it in paint. and get it tidy. I mean, most of the goalposts you can't actually see with the exterior body panels on, but there are big chunks that you can see. If I support the tailgate up on my head, so there's big chunks here that you can see all around the top and down this side. And similarly, when the bottom tailgate is open, you can see those. So the tailgate, and obviously everything on the inside here, pretty much as it is now, apart from the top rail, which is hidden by the headlining, both side rails you can see. You can see them in the back of the car. So obviously all of this lot needs to be tidied up, welds flatted back, filler where appropriate, paint. And then each of the body side frames is going to come off. I'll finish off the bottom of the B post, bottom of the A post, paint back on. Same with the driver's side, same with the bulkhead. We'll actually see some fairly significant process, because now at this point, this is Friday 6 minutes to 5, I have finally got this car where I'm happy with it as far as the alignment's concerned. And this has taken me all week. It's got to be right. If it's not right, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, obviously I've not finished off this channel up here, but I've got the start of that channel. I know exactly where it's going to go. On this side, the channel's a smeg low, so I'm going to raise the channel. It's not a problem. I can do that. So I leave just a spot weld on there. So when I spot welded this one on, playing with the spot welder, thinking, oh yeah, this is a piece of piss there. I've just welded it too tight down there. So I will make up another channel, bring it up higher. So it's the same height as that one over there. Because all of this is now exactly where it wants to be. The screw hole at the front there, that screw hole there is exactly where it should be as far as the factory fit on the B post is concerned. And then I've used similar screw holes on here where the original side panel for the rear light cover screwed onto the inside edge of the goalpost, which is also original. So those two are my baseline. This bit is too low. That's easy enough to fix. This one on this side, I've literally just pop riveted it into place because I wanted to, obviously didn't want to make that mistake over there. Look at the spot welds I put on there. Fucking thing. Anyway, I can fix this. This is good. I'm happy with this one. These arrows here represent the mounting points for the wings, by the way, because obviously I'm going to need to drill holes through like this when I mount the rear wings on. Not when I mount the rear wings, but when I mount the rear wings on the car. So yeah, everything now fits. And at last, I'm happy. It has been quite a long and frustrating week. I did a wedge of work on the bulkhead, and in fact this could probably come down a couple of mil. I might just try that. So that's quite high. Same on that side. Perhaps if I just bring it down a couple of mil on each side, we'll see what happens. It's still going to be too far proud of that though. And what I don't want to do, you see, is end up having this. I mean, okay, that line there is going to straighten up. Don't worry about that. That's because that's sitting proud there. But I don't want this panel to be sitting so you can see a huge great gap down there, nor do I want a huge gap at the top. So that piece is normal. That's what they look like. Let me go out to my father's car. It's butted up to the roof rail there. But other than that, there's a big gap. So that's what I need to aim to get on this. And here you can see the amount. You can't see because I haven't got the lamp on it. You can see the amount that's been cut out of that bottom of that goalpost. Because these two holes here were where it was welded onto the back of the kind of the frame that built up the back end of Bob when it was a bobtail. Yeah. Right. The other thing I do need to do is I need to cut down the big washers on the axles. You can see there, that's one of the big washers there. Just need to slice them in half. I'll measure, because obviously the whole thing's going to come apart now, but at the moment there's no body mounts on the rear end of the sill nor the back of the car. But the gap I've got down here now is correct that if I was to cut that down, it's going to take a normal washer and a normal mounting. It's exactly where it wants to be. Okay, same on both sides. At the end of the day, it wasn't actually that was causing the problem. It was the distance between the top rail of the goalpost and the rear cross member that was my problem. I've measured it, I've measured it, I've measured it, I've measured it, I've welded it all together, I've measured it, I've finished off the welding, and I managed to get 0.8 of a centimetre from somewhere, which meant that none of the hinges on the bottom tailgate lined up. Right, other purchase today, check out this. Don't need to talk for this. Fucking look at this beaut. Snipes. Thank you. This has been purchased with the generous donations to this channel. It's not just beer I buy. And I've got a nice big engineering rack. Put all my parts and things in there. Get index cards in here just so I can write what's actually in each of the drawers. It's a PCA data processing accessories made in England. Perhaps clean up some of the shit on the side. Nice bit of kit that though. Put all my parts in there. It's been nearly 3 hours work to get I still need to do a little bit of work up here to get all of these welds where I want them to be. Just a little bit more flatting back, and the paint can come off, primer can go on. I'm not too worried about these edges here because all of this is covered by exterior panels. You see nice welds from my welds there. All of this is hidden. The only bit that's really exposed is this piece down here. So I'm going to pay attention to all of these welds down here. There's a few there that I've not flatted back, one there. The other thing I'm tempted to do is not go with this original. Actually, I might do. These early cars, they had this really kind of convoluted way of getting the rubber to go around the door here. So I'm just going to need to spot weld a small track in there in order to hold the rubber against that piece for now. And then it can go back on. There's a dent up here, which I need to address. That's easy enough. I don't know how that's happened. That's obviously history. Bit of history behind the car. But other than that, I'm going to get the die grinder onto the welds at the top corners up here. It's coming together. Coming together quite quick. I just got fed up with this. I want to get this body frame fucking done. I'm supposed to be working on my car today. And I think it's just, if I don't get on with it, well, if I don't get on with my car, it's never going to happen. But if I don't get on with this, it's just delaying things. And as you found out already, I spent far too long getting the alignment sorted out on this. Did I just say fart? No, I'm not. I'm not going to. So next up, really, for the goalpost, is to fashion something along the top edge up here. I'm just going to kind of cut this out, work out roughly where it needs to go. Like that. Mark it, cut it. I'm not going to weld this piece in, I'm just going to keep this as a template because I actually want to have the washer wiper holes on this. It's not going to have the piece on the inside of the goalpost, which is this big relief piece here. I think that might just be a bridge too far, that one. I guess I could do it. If I lay this down, you'll see that it looks like excuse me, grinding dust in my lungs probably. Let me go and get this piece. I'll show you what happens. Put that there. Put that down there. can see that that's very clearly got this relief piece here, which could possibly go in up there. It could go in there, I suppose. It's just more work, isn't it? You're not really going to... Actually, no, I don't think we can do that, because I've got a feeling, if I just double check, we're locked. Headlining is in there. Yeah, the headlining's got a cutout for that piece on the A-Suffix, and we're not going down that route because one of these headboards is going in because the customer wants twin interior lights and speakers. So I'm putting one of these boards in. So there's no point in me making that relief on the inside of the goalpost because I ain't going to fit up there. And again, making work for myself. So I'll do the outside bit, give it a bit of an A-Suffix look, so people don't continually walk up to my customer saying, "Yeah, you bought a ringer." Yes. Sorry, I wasn't gazing at Diana then, I was actually looking down, but for some reason the camera wasn't. Anyway, I should mount the thing onto my head, shouldn't I? Right, I'm going to get the prep wheels out and get busy with those in a minute. And then we're going to put paint on. Might not be painted today. It's 3:45. Right, so what I'm doing here, just taking out the top section here. It's the original Tuscan blue piece that I've retrieved from the original top tailgate. The idea is to then butt splice that into that gap and then make up the bottom relief to go around the bottom edge, which I think is going to be fairly straightforward. I just need to kind of hold things in place, measure things out. The return lip on here as well, which is going to make life a little bit trickier, I guess, but I don't know. This thing's pissing me off at the moment. Fucking pain in the arse. Hello. Up there. Right. So I'm just really just kind of sketching it in, getting it roughly where I need. A little piece of metal needs to come off there. And then kind of just hold this in place while I measure up the rest of it. But first of all, fucking door. Fucking stay open, you bastard. Right. What we need to have done that. Kind of, I can't really use this piece, but it gives me a rough idea about where I'm going to go. But I think first and foremost I need to kind of get a piece of steel that's the right sort of height for this. So I'll cut this off at the right level, and then I can get that sorted out. And the last thing I'm going to need to make up is this little kind of like dirt shield thing that goes at the top here. And that's the last kind of major piece of welding. I've got a dent up here as well. I need to just dress that down. It's kind of all of this piece up here is hidden by the roof anyway, but might as well have it looking about right, eh? Get nice bare steel underneath there. There's nothing you can do about it. To be honest, every single fucking joint on this thing's got bare steel to bare steel. Right, let's get this all cleaned up now. Okay, so made up the repair piece I wanted. This top edge here is the original bit. I'll just take my paint off it. You can see there's blue on the back of it still. Can you see? I don't know, it's bright. You'd be complaining about too much light now. Right, so basically that's going to go roughly in there, and then I've made up this little piece here which is going to go on there. But what I'm going to do is, once this is welded into place, I'm probably going to end up bonding this on. I could weld it on, but just a fairly simple L section. I've used the shrinker stretcher on that just to get those curves. The shrinker stretcher I'm using, nice little fellow, this one came from Frost. It's just one device, but you have to change the jaws if you want to shrink or stretch. It's very, 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 very effective. I made that in a minute, or shrunk it in about a minute. It took me a little bit longer than that to kind of get the right sort of shape and profile. That's like a little handlebar. No. Right, okay, so I won't lose that again. What I am going to do though is weld this chappy in now, and get it. I've drawn some holes there for plugs, and get that in, butt welded in, and then I can really, I think that's going to kind of be about it then on this thing. Quite pleased with that though. So that's more or less how I want it, and I think it's going to look smart. There you go. As easy as that. Fucking thing. Right, that's it, kind of roughly. You can get my shadow over the top of it, you can actually see it. That's it roughly in place. It still needs tidying up. It's in the right location. It's welded in all the way around. I just need to kind of just flat back, fill in some of these tiny little holes where the weld didn't quite penetrate. And yeah, that's done then. But it's 3 o'clock, it's Sunday. I'm going to go and take a break. I'll finish this off tomorrow. I wanted to get this in paint today, but I just fucking got to take some time off some point.